So I thought chasing your dreams would make life much more exciting and fill me with joy and stuff. And actually, what's happened is it's put me back to where I was before, in a place before I reached my goals, but still close to disaster. I guess I'm not quite broke, but I'm almost there. Things are uncertain. How I get there is uncertain, and I can't shake this feeling that maybe I've messed up. But I won't know until I go through. But actually, what I've realized is trying again doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you braver than most. When I was 18, I was doing nothing with my life. I think just before I'd failed all my GCSEs, so my higher education in high school. I'd failed everything. I'd found drugs. I started smoking weed and all that kind of stuff back when I was in high school. So I failed everything. I decided I wanted to get into nightclubs and do promotion and all that kind of stuff. And I hit 18. I was broke. Now, I grew up in a council estate, right? So I had nothing. I had no safety net. I had no money. And I had to pay rent because the council forces you, once you've left school, to contribute towards the household income. And I had no income. I didn't have a job. I had nothing. I mean, I'd had a couple of jobs working in retail and stuff like that, but like Christmas jobs, temp jobs, I couldn't find one. And so 18, I decided that I needed to do something. And so I'm flicking through this college book and I seen this thing, graphic design. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. Called up the college, and I was like, look, I'm interested. They said, come down for an interview day. I've gone down to this college and I've done an interview now. In the interview, it said to bring a portfolio and work you've done previously. And I had nothing. I dropped art when I was 14 years old. I didn't like it, wasn't interested. I got there and I asked a friend of mine if I could use some of his Facebook event posters for my portfolio that I would show to this tutor. And I remember getting in there and showing them these fake portfolios. And I was like, yeah, I did this. And all the other kids who were applying for the course all had these big portfolio books. Anyway, I got in. Somehow I lied and I told them that I had 5 GCSEs when actually I had 3 and they were C's, and I got into the course. Next on, I failed the course. But anyway, what that did to me was that set me on a path. I think up until that point, I'd had nothing. And I found out that graphic design was a way that I could make money. And so I grafted down. I started getting contacts with nightclubs and I managed to get a design gig where I'm making one-off posters every now and then. I think I was charging like £10 or something for a poster, or £20. And I figured out a way. Fast forward 10 years, maybe 8 years. And I've been working my way up, some failed businesses along the way, but I've landed my first TV and film job. And I was like, I have made it. Like, this is it. This was, for years, I just figured out graphic design. And in the middle, I'm like, oh, I know I can get somewhere with this. And now I'm on a big Netflix production and I can see the goal. I can see it. I'm on my way to working on movies where I'm earning crazy money and life's good. And so I finally get to my destination of working on the big Hollywood movies, and life is just, I'm at the pinnacle. I've hit it. And then I found out that actually that wasn't my dream. And it was really, really hard emotionally, seeing people struggle, people crying. Everyone wanted to leave when I'm speaking to people. And I realized that at some point during my life, I'd taken a wrong turn, but I had committed to that turn. And so I carried on going down that path and I somehow ended up in movies. Now, movies were never my goal when I was a kid, right? I didn't even have goals as a kid. I just sort of rode the wave and ended up there. And suddenly where I ended up wasn't glitz and glory and rainbows that I thought it would be. Actually, it was a lot darker and political. And I was trying to figure it out and I just couldn't understand. How has this happened? I thought this was everything I wanted. I bought a house. Great. I thought this was everything I wanted. Sometimes what you think your goal is actually just another mask that you're putting on to build the character who you are. And that character wasn't who I ever intended to be. I just ended up there. I ended up walking away last year. It wasn't for me. And I realized that it became painfully obvious. And I decided I had to take the mask off. And then I found myself back where I started before I got into the industry, which was I'm in this in-between phase and I need to figure out what my plan B is. I left with no parachute. I just jumped out that plane. I knew I needed to get out. I knew I needed a new path, but I didn't know what it was. And so I evacuated. And my next journey was property, fine. There's this weird space that you find yourself in when you take these leaps that nobody really talks about. And you kind of, even if someone tries to explain it to you, the only way you'll truly understand it is by diving into that area. You're not who you used to be, or you're not quite where you want to be. And so you're in this in-between phase. And I've been here a few times in my life. I'm very aware of how that feels. It's such an odd thing to kind of navigate through. I had this identity when I was working in TV and film of being Drew, the guy who works on movies, the guy who does this, the guy who does that. And now that's gone. And there's not really much that can prepare you for you. I believe I had a plan. I thought I had a plan. And going into that plan, I was confident, knew what I thought I knew what I was doing. And what I didn't realize was in the background, I was having this identity crisis, this sort of, who am I? Am I just one of these other people? Is my story not real? I thought I was the captain of my ship, and suddenly I'm just a helper in my own story. And I felt like I was becoming this robot I battled with. I really struggled with it. And people don't talk about it. It seems like it's sort of like you see a lot of people talking online on YouTube and on Instagram like, oh, if you're angry, take the leap and just jump and just go into the next thing and it'll pay off. But the reality of that is the sleepless nights, the loss of identity, your funds running out, right? Or going low. And life just has this weird way of teaching you lessons in ways that no one can ever explain. You can't really put it into words. And so now I'm stuck in this phase early this year and late last year, where I don't know who I am and I don't know who I'm trying to become. I'm just trying to become something. And that's what got me into TV and film. But it didn't put me where I wanted to be. I went through life constantly trying to just ride the wave. Oh, there's an opportunity, let's go over there. Oh, there's an opportunity, let's go over there. And I had no real goal setting. And I think what I've started to realize is that actually setting a goal and heading towards that is way more important. It would save me time, hours, and effort understanding these things in advance. And only now I'm figuring that out. Especially with, the more online world we have. A lot of my friends are online actively, and I see them buying new cars and going on all these fancy holidays. And you can't help but have this feeling of like, am I falling behind? I'm 31. Am I behind? Am I doing something wrong? Maybe I should just go back to TV and film. Maybe I should just do that. It gave me money. It gave me status, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe I should just go back to the career that I had before. It's something that I've definitely thought about in depth. I've spent time deeping into my soul, I guess, into my mind. Do I want to go back there? And is money everything? And what I realize is that no, it isn't. It really isn't everything. In fact, on my highest paying job I've ever had, I was the most unhappy I'd ever been. Now, that job allowed me to travel. It allowed me to go to Asia and stuff like that. And I'm thankful for that. It gave me skills. It gave me things. I'm grateful for the opportunities that working in that industry has given me, but it isn't my dream. And it is someone else's dream. And I had to realize that for myself. It was definitely tough. And then you go back to seeing, like I said, seeing everyone get ahead of you or feel like they're getting ahead of you. And it definitely creates some inner battles that no one can really prepare you for. And so the thing that I've done to deal with that, to sort of get around that, is setting goals and understanding what is my end goal? What do I want to achieve? And then taking steps back. And so my end goal can't be a monetary value, because I can get monetary value somewhere else and be unhappy. And there's so many finance bros out there that have worked in finance and quit and have become yoga instructors or something, right? Money is not the goal. And so I had to spend time thinking about my goal and what that is, understanding who I am and how to get there. And to be honest, I'm not on here to tell you that I've figured that out. I haven't figured out everything, and I'm not perfect and I'm not the finished product. What I'm trying to do is just, I guess you guys are just like my therapist. And actually speaking this content, what I've realized is that it's helped me in some kind of way, and understanding and speaking things into reality really, really helps. But ultimately, my goal is freedom for me and freedom for my family. I'm expecting a child with my wonderful wife. And so ultimately, what do I want? Do I want to dedicate 1,000 hours a week to a job? Not really. I want to be present for my son, but I need money, right? we all need money. And so the goal is ultimately to find out what that freedom is. Now, I've set up a marketing agency, great. And I love the work I do. I love helping people achieve things they didn't want to achieve. And like seeing someone reciprocate that in a way that's like, thank you for doing this for me. That is my wonderful feeling, but it might not be yours. What I think is important is to figure out what yours is and then work your way backwards. Let's say your ultimate goal is to own a ski resort. Well, okay, then work backwards. What do I need to own a ski resort? Well, I need to understand skiing, right? And so you work your way backwards. I need money to get there. Okay, so how are you going to get money? Well, you need to get educated. What do you need to get educated in? Well, you probably don't need a university degree. I'm pretty sure you don't. I don't know if there's a ski studies university degree, but what you do need is education on running a business. What you do need is understanding what it takes to have a great skiing experience. So there's certain things you need to achieve before you get to your end goal. Once you understand what those are, you can understand what you need to get educated in. You can begin that journey. Now, I'm not saying everyone who's watching this video can become a ski instructor or a flight instructor or fly planes, right? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you need to find out what your goal is. And setting the goal will help you figure out what things you're missing and put you on that path. Because I ended up on a path that wasn't right for me, and I committed to that path. And it's cost me years. I haven't wasted my time though. I've learned a lot on that journey. And now I'm here. I've spent countless hours in this room heading the wrong direction. And now I have a sense that, okay, I want to make content. I want to talk about my feelings and understand that that's okay, because that's something I struggle with. And so I'm trying to get better. I also want to speak to people that I'm not the finished product. I'm not the Alex Hormozi who has 20 million followers and millions and millions. I'm nearer the start of his journey. And I think if I could see someone in my situation now or 10 steps ahead of me, I'd be watching their content countlessly, looking for inspiration, motivation, anything, a sense of guidance. And so I felt like I had to make this kind of content. What I've realized is trying isn't embarrassing. It's brave as hell. And even if you're pretending to be brave, that is what bravery is. The fear, like being brave is not having no fear. I'm terrified. I have so much lying on the line. I'm so scared, but I'm fighting through that. Bravery is not the lack of fear. It's having fear and doing the thing anyway. You got to understand as well that, let's say, quitting your job is probably not the best thing to do flat out. I don't recommend it. But deciding you want to make a change, there's so many people in your situation that want to make a change but are too scared and are not ready. And that's okay. But you've decided to make a change. And so that does separate you. And having that in you makes you stronger. You're not failing. You are rebuilding. It's a completely different thing. Starting again is not starting from zero. You've learned a lot. You have so much more life experience, lived experience from doing the thing that you don't like. You realize that now. And so now you can start working towards the thing you do. Creating content is helping me. Talking honestly is definitely helping me. I think it's important to find out what helps you, and the only way you can find that out is by doing something. You have to go through it. There's only one way through life, and it's through. And it's the same with anything. If you're trying to quit your job or you're scared, and you don't want to feel fear, the only way through that is through it. Facing those demons and getting through. There's no other option. You're going to have to struggle and it's going to suck. But the only way to get between you and the thing you want is a hell of a lot of suck. It's horrible. And then you get there. I'm still working on that for me. I'm still on my way here. But I'm going to document it as best I can. If you're in that in-between phase right now, don't rush it. Don't jump to every opportunity that comes in front of you. Everything that's happening right now is happening to you, making you a better person. You're doing the right thing. You're not behind. You're becoming.